This episode of Around the Layout is powered by Rapido Trains.
Buying Rapido trains will make you happy.
Rapido's going back to the 90s for the return of the Mac. SD70 Macs in both HO and N scale in variations you've never seen before. Whether it's coal or racks, you need a 70 Mac. Check out all of the details at rapidotrains.com. When it's time to buy your Rapido trains, there's no place better than Spring Creek Model Trains. Right now, ATLP listeners can take 5% off in-stock, regularly priced Rapido Trains products on their website through May 31st. Use code ATLPSPRING26 at checkout at springcreekmodeltrains.com. When I was trusted with the work of North America's top modelers, I entrusted Model Train Box. Flying halfway around the world to Australia, I needed absolute confidence that those models would arrive safe, and they did. Model Train Box proved that it's secure, durable, and built for modelers who care about every detail. Learn more or order yours today at modeltrainbox.com and transport your models with confidence. ATLP Extra is our monthly newsletter delivered right to your inbox each month. Sign up for free at atlpextra.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Around the Layout, where model railroaders come to tell their story. My name is Ray Arnott. So glad you could join us. It's time to find out what's happening in model railroading, and let's kick it over to a very familiar voice to find out what's trending in model railroading. This is Ray Arnott filling in for Mike Zucker from Spring Creek Model Trains, and here's what's trending in model railroading. For this month, let's take a look at all the new items that are arriving at Spring Creek Model Trains. Athearn HO GP60s, Athearn HO 28-foot drop sill parcel trailers, Athearn HO arch roof passenger cars, Athearn Genesis HO scale GP38-2s, Athearn Genesis HO ACF 4600 covered hoppers, Atlas Master HO B23-7 in sound versions, Atlas N-scale FA1s and B1s, Atlas N-scale GP39-2s with speaker, Broadway Limited HO Brass Hybrid Union Pacific Bull Moose, Columbus Trainmaster HO and N center beam loads, Moloko HO St. Cloud boxcars, Rapido HO scale auto flood 3s, Rapido HO GP40s, Rapido HO M60A1 tank loads, Roca HO ARI 33,700 gallon spiral tank cars, Tangent HO 20,500 gallon non-insulated tank cars, Walther's Mainline HO SW1s, Walther's Mainline HO 40-foot steel boxcar with Murphy ends, and Walther's Proto HO GP9s including the low-nose Western Marylands. And coming soon to Spring Creek Model Trains, Scale Trains N-scale GP40s, Scale Trains N-scale 3250 covered hoppers, Athearn N-scale Berwick bathtub gondolas, Athearn Genesis N-scale ACF 4600 covered hoppers, Athearn HO scale NSC 6400 gondolas, Atlas N-scale GP39-2 with sound, Atlas N-scale 45-foot Pines trailers, Atlas N-scale 60-foot auto parts boxcars, Atlas N-scale 4427 covered hoppers, Atlas N-scale Pressure 8 covered hoppers, Atlas N-scale 1993 Ford Explorer, Atlas HO AEM 7s, Atlas HO C420s, Atlas HO 60-foot auto parts boxcars, Atlas HO 45-foot Pines trailers, and Atlas HO 1993 Ford Explorers. For more on all of these releases, head to springcreekmodeltrains.com. This is Ray Arnott filling in for Mike Zucker from Spring Creek Model Trains, and that's what's trending in model railroading. And now it's time for a deep dive. This is where we talk to a newsmaker in the hobby and find out what's going on beyond the press release. And joining me to do that, the owner of Home Shops, Chris Palmieri. Chris, good to see you again.
Hey, Ray, good to see you. Appreciate the invite.
Great to have you, and great to have you back on the show. I'm seeing you live. You got this neat location where you're packaging all these Home Shops products up. And was there an auto flood of auto floods in there this past week?
There was an auto flood of auto floods, and we haven't really announced it because I haven't haven't had time to fulfill all of the pre-orders yet. But yes, we have a pallet of auto floods that has arrived. In fact, in 3 weeks, I received 3 pallets: the Prairie Shadows GP20 Ecos, and then a week later the auto floods, and then have never announced it, I don't think, on any show, the Scale Trains Fox Valley ore cars. I've got them in, but I have not had the time to even put them on the website yet to make them available for sale. So that's coming soon.
How long has Home Shops been going for now, Chris?
I guess we're about 5 years. Started in January of 2021.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Congratulations on that. 5 amazing years. What an awesome concept. I remember when first learning about Home Shops and those 4750s that came out. And then, of course, the Ambassador Tour that inspired the Around the Layout podcast, HO Scale Interchange Tour and the N Scale Interchange Tour. So you've been very busy over the last 5 years and building up the Home Shops name. And now some really exciting news coming out this year in a partnership with a name that sounds familiar for partnerships.
Yeah, that name would be Rapido. We have struck a partnership, and it's going to allow us to get a lot more stuff out there and hopefully take a little bit of the work off of yours truly's hands as far as being here in the home shop till 10 o'clock every night, fulfilling orders. So I'm very excited about where this goes.
What does that Rapido and Home Shops relationship equate to? Does this mean that Rapido is now running Home Shops, or what does this all look like?
No, we're very separate companies. I'll be quite candid. You know, when we did our freelance forum last September, you notice we announced 7 things, and kind of with this experiment being a one-man show, working with a number of different manufacturers, it's very difficult to predict and meter the flow of inbound products because everybody has their own timelines and struggles and challenges, and it got to be quite a bit. And of course, we've got a great relationship with all the manufacturers that we've worked with, but it's just me financing and fulfilling and playing that game. And I don't know, maybe October or so, I had a great conversation with the folks at Rapido. We had a Zoom, and they were announcing all these, or selling me all these great products they were coming out with, and I expressed that it might be time to start thinking about a new way to do things because, financing them all myself and fulfilling everything myself is a challenge. So, Rapido said we might have a good fit where we can take some of the biggest burdens off of your shoulder. And I flew up there and just had a really, really insightful and great visit with the folks there at Toronto. I gained a lot of respect for Rapido and what goes on behind the scenes. So the new partnership now lets us basically piggyback on anything they produce. And if it meets pre-order requirements, it's basically a Home Shop / Rapido project. We do all the artwork. We pick the road names. We're still the curator of the freelance community. All Rapido freelance projects go through Home Shops. But now the distribution, the sales, and the financing go through. It's part of the lifting that Rapido does.
Well, that's awesome stuff. Takes a lot of that pressure off of you and then taps into a really big talent pool up there as well. All the marketing and the research that they do. And now you have a teammate to walk down the path with you. Absolutely.
It's multiple teammates. And, there's a lot of folks that have been walking the path with me and helping me out along the way. But this is a step off of a plateau I've been on for a while to hopefully take this thing to the next level.
We're talking about taking it to the next level. I popped onto homeshops.net and the website looks a little different. So some changes have been made since the last time I perused it.
It's got quite a few changes. I thought we did a formal announcement at the Rocky Mountain Train Show in April. And, Yeah, I mentioned some folks that have helped me, been working on the website. It had a lot of different hands in it. And I thought, this event, this announcement is going to draw a lot of eyes to home shops for the first time. So, and the website for the first time. So I completely scrubbed the website. It's got a brand new homepage. It's got a page dedicated to the announcement. We've got a few new blog items on there. We've also got our updated Freelance Hub, which is a resource. That page has basically a write-up of every freelance railroad that we've done or have something in the works for that may or may not have been announced. Hint, hint. And there's also a very thorough page for the Freelance Forum, which we're going to have again in October. And all the details and excitement is spelled out on our Freelance Forum page. So we've definitely scrubbed the website and given it a new feel. And also, in the past, in my mind, most of the folks visiting the website were already freelance people, kind of understood what it meant. And the new homepage and some of the other content is more directed towards the people that are, perusing a Rapido email and here's this home shop stuff for the first time. What's this freelance all about? I think the website does a much better job of introducing folks to what it's all about for the first time now.
You and I have had that interview back sometime. We'll share the links in our show notes around the layout.com/234, where we talked about the freelance world, but you've taken it upon yourself not only to help these freelance railroads create their own rolling stock and locomotives that can be shared amongst other model railroaders around the globe, but you've taken it upon yourself to also educate the people about freelance model railroading. And I know you've done that well. In here, it says the freelance ecosystem. Talk a little bit more about what the freelance ecosystem is.
Well, the freelance ecosystem is, it's not just one person that creates something. I view this as art. And, if you think of any artist or art world, art community, you've got support network and you've got inspiration and then you've got events that pull everybody together. And, here you've got, I'm not looking at the homepage, but I believe you've got, one of the three tenets is the actual equipment. And then another piece is education and learning. And then another piece is bringing the community together. And at home shops, we want to be more than just, we sell an awesome freight car. We really want to be the leader and curator of this freelance community. And, model railroading is art. And freelance is just a type of manifestation of that art. And I think once people are exposed to it and appreciate all the thought that goes behind creating something that requires 100% creativity versus 100% copying the real world, a lot of people really appreciate that. No different than going to a art museum and seeing a sculpture or a painting or reading a novel that was created by the artist in that medium.
Talk about the community that this has built. I got to witness it firsthand at the Freelance Forum at the Colorado RPM in October and looking forward to witnessing it yet again. But talk about the network that this is all built, the community that ties everybody together in the freelance world.
Well, I think a short glimpse of that community is just, like-minded people that were once kind of lone wolves discovering that, my gosh, there's other people who are thinking the same way about model railroading, that are just as creative as I am, and that now I've got somebody I can share with and learn from. And, just the support has been pretty outstanding. I watch a lot of these products that we announce and see folks championing their own car or locomotive that we're working on. And it's just fun to watch the comments of other road owners, basically cheering on the folks that have projects in the works. And, sometimes I'll watch questions. Recently we've got one of our railroads, the Yankeetown Dock Corporation, Modern Yankeetown Dock Corporation. Matt Gentry made a post about his railroad, and one of the other modelers out there started asking detailed questions about the steel mill and what they created and what they did, and they got into talking about the freelance interpretation of what this prototype place would serve and look like in the freelance interpretation of the world. And just having that dialogue and this train of thought, it inspires folks to create more of their own. So it's a lot of it's organic. It's just, you put your ingredients out there, create the events, create the talking points, which are the products. Obviously the Freelance Forum is going to be our flagship melting pot event here. But once you get those ingredients out there, people just love to talk about it and share ideas, and new things come out of it.
I say it's always fun when you're able to include other people in your layout and have these things that connect to your friends or the people that you've met. And of course, you and I are both blessed to be in positions in the hobby where we meet a lot of people and build an amazing network. But be able to take a car like a Devin Jackson in the Mesquite Belt or Joe Bohannon in the Chinook lines and have a car on your layout that represents them and represents that friendship and the relationships and the remembrance of being at their layout, and have a souvenir that rolls and makes sense and adds to the railroad. That's really a neat part of that community as well, wouldn't you say?
Oh, for sure. I may have said it once or twice before on here, and it's worth repeating. Nobody buys an SP freight car because they really respect and love Ben Biagini, right? But people, I'm excited to get my Around the Layout podcast box car when it shows up, because that's going to represent this relationship that we've built and the community that you have built on wherever that car goes. And for sure, when a train rolls by, a freelance train, and it's got 15 cars on it by 15 freelance railroaders, I see those 15 people in that community in the train. I don't just see a bunch of gray TILX hoppers, that would be on a prototype train.
So when you're looking at projects to do, this is where I start to wonder, like, how do you tie all this together? You've got so many amazing railroads are listed here on the Freelance Hub that are kind of in your arsenal. And then you have these amazing projects coming in from folks like Rapido. How do you start to pair these up? How do you take a look at an upcoming project from a manufacturer, then look at your freelance roads, and how do you make those connections? What's the method to the madness there?
Well, some of it is intuition. I've been a student of railroading for a very, very long time. I've been pouring through official railroad equipment registers, since I can remember being able to label a slide or a print. Every freight car picture I took, I would study and look up in the ORER, and that kind of a background lets me very quickly kind of get a feel for what the railroad would look like when I'm talking to a freelance road owner. So in my mind, I've kind of got a general feel for what would be an appropriate piece of equipment for that railroad. So when projects come up, there are a number of boxes that kind of need to be checked. Number one, of course, is it appropriate for the road? And that's a direct conversation with the road owner if they're still with us. And if it's a yes, then the next piece is there a following for it? What is the road owner doing to champion his road? Some people have got really great ideas for things they drew on a napkin one time and nobody's ever seen it. Well, that's going to be a bigger challenge to sell a minimum order quantity than something by somebody who's actually got a Facebook page with 2,000 people and a YouTube channel with 3,000 people. Then there's already that. So I look to see if there's that. And then is also kind of a guesstimate of timing. When would this project come in? Is it something that, will be in the middle of a large bubble of inbound, or would it be at a time where I'd be more comfortable with that invoice when it shows up? And that's kind of where the Rapido partnership takes a little bit of that constraint away, but it's replaced it with a minimum order quantity, and I won't go into definite numbers, but if during the pre-order period it appears that there's not much of a interest in buying a product, well then there's not a lot of capital lost in investing in it if it's not going to go there. So I feel like this partnership is going to really drive road owners to take more of a stake in building support and selling their product, because it's and it's really important that they do that in addition to us as well, because it is about them, and if the road owner is not excited about the product, to where they want to sell it, well, then why would necessarily people buy it or we invest in it? So that pre-order piece is going to kind of change that dynamic. And while it might take a few things off the table if there really is no support, it's going to allow us to test a whole lot more things and discover things where there is support. So those are kind of the three big boxes that we check. Is it appropriate? Is there a following? And then is it actually going to sell?
Well, it definitely does help when a freelance railroad, as you're mentioning, starts to develop that built-in audience, right? They have a following. They've got people that know and understand their railroad, and that helps with that relatability as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And it's not difficult to do at all. I mean, for the most part, if you put a little bit of thought and creativity and due diligence into what you create, you just put it out there, make a Facebook post, TikTok, Instagram, whatever medium you're playing, you're comfortable with. People are going to like it, but they just need to have seen it before the product comes out. And that's part of the magic behind the Freelance Hub, right? It's a common medium, so that, if you're only on TikTok, you're only going to see a few things, and if you're only on Instagram, you're going to see a few things. But if you go to the Freelance Hub, at least there is that reference now. But the comments and the chatting and the liking when people post, you don't get that from the Freelance Hub. You get that from social media, and it's really important that people post or otherwise share what their creation is and generate that excitement beyond the brand that they're building.
I can also see it as an avenue you would want to take. A lot of these freelance railroaders, yourself included, have put a lot of work into the backstory of their freelance railroads. It's so important to share, isn't it? I mean, you've put all that work in. You've got a story to tell. Now tell your story, and social media is a great way to do it.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. And that backstory is a big lure, a big appeal for a lot of folks for freelancing in the first place. A lot of folks look at the prototype world and see where they think the prototype railroads went wrong, right? Well, this lets you do it yourself and write that narrative in a way that's comes to a conclusion that's more satisfying, more appealing than what's going on in the prototype world. But for sure, share that story. You mentioned my Meridian Speedway. I've got that whole narrative on a website, meridianspeedway.net. I wouldn't expect that most people would do a website, but just having bits and pieces of that narrative in posts, like the Yankeetown Dock post that I mentioned, it creates thought, it creates excitement, and it builds a feeling of, I get what this railroad is all about. I get what he's doing. I can see that car on my layout, or I can see that car in my collection.
When it comes to rolling stock or even locomotives and freelance railroads, in your mind, in your opinion, what makes a great looking scheme?
Sometimes simpler is better. Having put some due diligence into a logo, font coordination, and what a master scheme would look like, and keeping it simple for the most part. Don't get too crazy with colors. Maybe if you're going to have multiple colors, do a little bit of color palette study to make sure these are colors that don't clash. But keep it simple. If there's a one-word name, make it big and bold. If it's 2 or 3 words, don't clutter it up with a lot of other stuff, because you need the real estate on the side of your equipment to display that name. Take a look at prototype cars, and locomotives, and just kind of study what the big boys have done, and you'll notice rules, patterns, and follow those guidelines.
Yeah, it's kind of already written out there, isn't it? If you can find a good example and kind of base it off that and give it your own twist, you really are on your way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you go out to, you can go out today and find a city bus that's shrink wrapped with 3D graphics, and, that's fine for that. But don't put that on a 50-foot boxcar, because no one's ever done that, and it's going to stand out, right? So be mindful, of that. Look at railroad logos. Very few railroad logos have more than 2 or 3 colors in them. And I'll see some logos that folks are doing, and it's got a whole spectrum of about 30 colors and shades of colors, and it just, to my eye, in my opinion, it makes me think, no railroad would ever stick that on the side of a locomotive or a car because it would be very, very costly to create and it would degrade very quickly in the harsh environments that railroad equipment is in, right? So be mindful of that. Just kind of look at, start counting colors and looking at the size of elements and then try to mimic it to a certain extent. Don't be exactly like it, but just think, does this look like it would be in line with everything else that would be next to it at the time and place I'm trying to recreate?
Yeah, that was one of the things that we talked about when we recorded that episode, The Forward to Freelance. Yeah, that was episode number 195. And again, we'll share links to that episode in our show notes around the layout.com/234. But yeah, it's you got to have that plausibility and you don't want to go too crazy. And I think plausibility helps sell product. It helps sell the story.
Oh, for sure. Plausibility is, plausibility might mean slightly different things to different people, but you can tell when folks haven't practiced any due diligence to even try to care, right? So, and most folks do, and most folks do a really, really good job of it. So don't be afraid to, but just take a look at what's out there.
Well, let's talk about some of these projects that you've selected some awesome freelance railroads to participate in. And you mentioned the auto floods that haven't been advertised yet. You want to talk a little bit on that one?
Yeah, so the auto floods are actually our last pre-partnership order with Rapido. And that's maybe 2 years in the making, I think. It's kind of hard for me to remember all the timelines, but it was one that I thought was imminent in September at the Freelance Forum, and here it is May, and they just showed up 2 weeks ago. So we did 4 road names. We did a really slick V&O car. These are all aluminum rapid discharge cars, and it's got 2 blue panels with the white V&O Appalachian lines on it. We did our Cardinal system is kind of the other classic road. Jack Brown of the New Hope of Jackson component of it. He did a clinic for us at the RPM and Freelance Forum last year. These cars will bear the NHJ reporting marks, which is different than the boxcar we did with the Southridge Lines name and reporting marks, or the finger flat we did with the CLE, Calumet Lake Erie component reporting marks. So we're slowly building out the family of the Cardinal system, and they're just sharp looking cars. So I'm excited about that. And then we did, I know I mentioned it a few times, we did Matt Gentry's Modern Yankeetown Dock. I just think it's such a cool concept that he's got there, kind of reviving a short line in the part of the country that he grew up in, with a long distance foreign line coal pipeline. So he's got these modern coal trains basically going from the Powder River Basin to his short line, which is the Modern Yankeetown Dock. And just gorgeous cars. Hint, hint, may or may not be a locomotive coming to pull them, but that's pretty excited.
Stay tuned.
Yes. And then for the 4th road, we decided to take a look and see if anybody had a freelance utility done on their railroad. And the answer was yes. John Parker of the Fall River Division of the BNSF had a pair of public service company fictitious freelance utility coal cars in a cycle between the coal mines on his railroad, which represented basically something that was in the Powder River, and a balloon track at a power plant. He ran these 2 sets back and forth in his operating sessions. They were older cars, Atlas bathtub Gons. They were black cars with a red panel. And we approached John and said, hey, what do you think about updating your fleet with modern cars? And the rest is history. So we've got brand new graphics, public service company graphics on beautiful aluminum auto flood hoppers. And the neat thing about these cars is, unlike necessarily the V&O cars, it's a very generic name, public service company, PSCX. These cars, could basically be on anyone's railroad without actually indicating a link to geography or any particular location. So if you need a coal train that's plausible, we've got the cars for you. But most of the prototype cars in this run by Rapido, they're linked to a specific utility. The reporting marks are owned by a utility, and that may be a challenge for folks, even though they're pretty cars to put on the railroad wherever they model. But a generic public service company car, where would that not go, right? So those are the 4 road names in our auto flood release that just came in.
And that's awesome too with the John Parker car, going out to Colorado, getting my first look in person at the BNSF Fall River Division. And now I've got a souvenir for it. It took a little, about a year for it to turn around, but that was cool. I ordered it as soon as you guys announced it at the Freelance Forum at the Colorado RPM.
Yep.
And now I've got a souvenir saying, yep, here's a car that represents John Parker's layout. And again, going back to that point that I made, it so fun to be able to have something that just represents all these really cool people that I can work either onto a shelf next to my desk here, or I can put it on my layout and run it, and have that question mark when somebody comes over and goes, wait, what's that car and then have a story to tell about it.
Sure. They're absolutely conversation pieces for sure. And John Parker, I mean, what a class act. There's no shortage of inspiration just to see with what's going on there.
Yeah, for sure. Not only the layout, but his approach too. And that just keeps telling all the different ways that you can freelance, and you can come up with something, create all your own, or you can take a class 1 and then create an area that nobody would ever really know unless they had, were told otherwise. I'd be looking for Fall River Division on a BNSF map, right? Where is this place? He's done it so well.
Absolutely. It was kind of cool. He did a clinic for us as well at the Freelance Forum. And his take was a little bit different, and it was really interesting. Every slide, he talked about a particular aspect of his railroad, and he had a kind of a chart or a graph on each one as to this particular component of the Fall River Division. Is it really on this side close to freelance? Is it on this side close to prototype? Is it in the middle, proto freelance 50-50? And it was interesting to see how he was able to blend some things that are really freelance and mix it in with something that's very prototype, i.e. BNSF GEVOs pulling coal trains, right? And there was just this whole gamut of different levels of proto freelance and freelance on different aspects on his railroad, but the overall picture, the final masterpiece of the art that he's created, is just a very believable, seamless experience to observe.
Well, we talked about auto floods. What else do we have on the project list?
Let's see here. So with things in the pipeline, we made some soft announcements, soft launch announcements with our partnership projects. There's a couple of road names of CF7s. We've got Radisson McGuire's Alabama Central and Mike Ostertag's Farland Terminal. We're very happy to say that we've got an ABA set of V&O FA, FB locomotives in the pipeline. I think those are going to be the first ones to arrive. And then kind of the magic of this thing, the CF7s, I think they're going to do very, very well. People are just hungry for CF7s. They're great locomotives for switching. When I went to Toronto, they had a sample of the RS-23 switcher, MLW Alco switcher. And I mean, just a gorgeous little locomotive. But it's not something that I necessarily would have been comfortable, investing in myself to see what it does. But this partnership, we had the opportunity to put 4 schemes out there and see what they do. 2 of them have done very, very well and are going to production for sure. And the other 2, I think we're going to get them over the finish line. But there would have been none of them if we didn't have this partnership in place. So those road names that are in the works are the Split Rock Mining Company, Thomas Gazier's Freelance Railroad. He's been on 3 different covers, articles of 3 different magazines. He's just very, very talented. I mean, everybody's very, very talented. We've got Daniel Archer's West Falls Northern. We've got Joe Loggins' Arkansas Valley. And a new entrant to our stable here is the Cara Terminal, John Woodhouse's railroad, and just a gorgeous thing. He's got a great Alco story and nice write-up on our Freelance Hub. So those are in the works. And then we announced at the April show, Rapido announced their new locomotive, the SD70 Mac, and we're going to do classic V&O. We're going to do the Georgia Road, and we're going to do Texas Great Northern engine with a commemorative pink cancer survivor locomotive named Michelle Kempema. And there's a lot of press and things we're going to do to that. Michelle's just absolutely great to work with on this project. And Rapido was like, the numbers for that engine are outpacing most of our prototype ones. So it's very cool to see what's going on with that.
That doesn't surprise me with the mother of model railroading's name on it.
It's really an honor.
She is just,
she is
shining lights in our hobby for sure. She's definitely a big piece of it and helped drive the whole Colorado RPM and of course the Freelance Forum. And we'll be looking forward to being back out there in her presence in October to spend time with them. And then of course, all the freelancers and prototypes and everybody else hanging together and mixing it together and really enjoying each other's company.
Absolutely. Yeah, so those are the locomotive projects we've got that we can talk about so far. We've got those 40-foot modern boxcars that we're really excited about. But with all the locomotives and all the freight cars, it's really, really important that you pre-order. If you're interested in it, pre-order. Be less concerned and less thoughtful of a pre-order as a financial commitment and think of it more as a vote that signals to the manufacturers at least that there's interest in the product. It's better to let everyone know that there's interest in the project, and if the timing is not good when it shows up and you have to cancel, that's fine. But, there are things that may not go to production if, a lot of people are over conservative just on pre-ordering. A pre-order is a vote. It's not a financial commitment. You can always change your mind at game time, and it's not the end of the world. Most of the manufacturers I've talked to at the trade shows feel the same way about the pre-orders, because it's really the only way folks who are going to invest in a project have any sense of, are there people who are even interested in it? And if you're pre-ordering it, you're saying, yeah, I'm a person on the side of the aisle that's interested in this product. So pre-order. It's very, very important.
Yeah, this hobby is so diverse. You really need that measuring stick, don't
Absolutely.
you?
There's a lot of things that I've invested in that I thought would be gold as far as moving, and they didn't. And then there's other things that I felt was really going to be a risk, and my gosh, they flew off the shelves. So it's definitely a lot of guesswork, and it's expensive. It costs a lot of money to bring these things to life. So having some kind of data to make that decision on its investment worthiness is very, very important.
Awesome stuff. Well, tell everybody where they can find more about Home Shops.
Well, you can go to www.homeshops.net and learn about Home Shops. There's a lot of content there. Also, if you go to Rapido's website, in the left-hand column on their menu, there is a Home Shops tab there with some information on our partnership, as well as links to all the railroads on the Home Shops Freelance Hub page. And you can directly pre-order items from Rapido right there. A lot of folks have their own dealer that they prefer to order from. Make sure that if you are ordering through your Rapido dealer, that they are communicating to Rapido that they do have pre-orders for an item. I'm discovering that it's a very interesting process from dealer to dealer to dealer how they communicate their pre-orders and when they communicate their pre-orders and interest. So your tally gets counted right away if it goes to Rapido. But if you have a dealer, we absolutely want you to go through your Rapido dealer and make sure that you express the importance of them communicating that timely to Rapido. So you can also we have a Facebook page, Home Shops, a Facebook group. We've got an Instagram page, lots of places to learn about Home Shops.
Awesome stuff. We'll share again all those links on our website, aroundthelayout.com/234. And then the other thing we can find out about on the Home Shops website is the next time you and I will likely hang out together, and that's going to be in October in Greeley, Colorado.
Yes, absolutely, Ray. We will see you at the Freelance Forum, part of the Colorado RPM, October 16th, 17th, and 18th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. For those who show up early on Thursday, there's going to be a mixer event, which is going to be great for folks who want to maybe plan their Friday carpool layout, self-guided layout tours. There's going to be lots of great railroads open for folks to go to, and it's more fun when you carpool with friends, whether they're longtime friends or friends you just met at the mixer the Thursday evening before. So consider that when you're making your travel plans. And if you've got models, bring them to display. If you've got stuff you want to run, there's a form on there. Reach out to us and we can get it in the operating session at the Colorado Model Railroad Museum layout.
Well, awesome stuff. I look forward to being out in Colorado. Also look forward to seeing anytime Home Shops makes a new release and checking out all those amazing freelance railroads that are out there. Chris, can't wait to hang out with you in Colorado.
Absolutely, Ray. We had a blast last year, and we're gonna have an even better time this year.
And now it's time for the RPM report. Let's turn it over to Eric Hansmann.
It's time for your Railroad Prototype Modeler Report for May. I really enjoyed Ray's Sydney, Australia RPM reports here on the podcast. It seems like it was a really great event. And photos have popped up on Facebook from the RPM Carolinas event held over the first weekend in May. Coming up this month, we have the annual Railway Modelers Meet in Vancouver, British Columbia from May 2nd through May 24th. And the New England RPM will rock Springfield, Massachusetts on May 29th and 30th. Their presentation lineup looks very strong. There are a couple of events in June and July. An RPM meet will be held on June 6th during the Santa Fe Railway Historical and Modeling Society Convention in Mesa, Arizona. More historical societies are including a prototype modeling aspect to their conventions, combining some great modeling with historical presentations. And it's time to make your commitment for the St. Louis RPM, July 23rd through the 25th at the Gateway Convention Center in Collinsville, Illinois. This is one of the largest prototype modeler events in the U.S. each year, with thousands of models on display. This year's focus is on operation as the key to modeling your prototype. It's going to be another big time in Collinsville, Illinois. For information and links to these and more upcoming events, check the RPM calendar link at aroundthelayout.com/RPM. Make plans to attend a prototype modeler meet near you. I'll be back next month with another RPM report. Until then, let the prototype be your guide.
And now it's time to find out what's happening in and around ATLP universe. The Sherman Hill Model Railroad Show is in Cheyenne, Wyoming, June 13th and 14th at the Archer Event Center. The National N-Scale Convention is at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, June 26th and June 27th. You'll find me at the New England RPM, May 28th, 29th, and 30th. If you'd like to promote your model railroad event here on the podcast, reach out to us at aroundthelayout.com/event. And that's what's happening in model railroading. We'll catch up with you again next month. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Around the Layout. Learn more about today's episode, check out past shows, and much more on our website, aroundthelayout.com. Show your support by becoming an operating crew member at aroundthelayout.com/crew. Follow us on social media, aroundthelayout.com/social. And send us your feedback, aroundthelayout@gmail.com. Thanks for hanging out with us around the layout.